What a time. What a time. Well, obviously last week was big for the show with the CM Punk interview, the Rhea Ripley interview, the Cody Rhodes interview, Cody finishing the Dart story, etc., etc. On Friday, I'm getting ready to head out to Philadelphia, and there's an earthquake here in the Northeast. Everyone got all crazy over this, but in the end, I don't think anything massive happened as a result, right? There was no real structural damage or any injuries or casualties.
Who, me?
Am I right about that, Frank, or am I wrong?
I saw like an image of a road somewhere in New Jersey that was a little messed up.
Okay.
And I think I have a tile in my living room that's a little out of place.
Well, commiserations over.
Thank you. We will rebuild.
Yes. But glad to hear. But everyone was very fired up over this. We dusted ourselves off, pardon the pun, and we headed off to Philadelphia, which I spent a majority of the time in this weekend. It was myself. I went solo. New York Rick met me there, and we had a nice little reunion with our good friend Mark Ramundi, formerly of this website and formerly of the MMA beat, pardon the pun, now moving over to the Atlanta Falcons beat. We had a nice little cheesesteak dinner. What was it? Was it from D'Alessandro's? Was that it? Rick?
Forget the name. Hold on. Let me look up the record while you describe.
What do you give it?
That was a solid 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10, really?
Yeah.
I feel like you're overhyping it.
No. I'm not a big. This may be controversial. I don't think the cheesesteaks in Philadelphia are that great. A lot of them have been kind of like overhyped. Like they've become these factories for tourists coming in, and the quality I just don't think is probably the same as it was when it was first like the staple. They're kind of overrated, but this one was quite good.
You loved it.
It was really
I
good.
think it was D'Alessandro's.
Yeah, Mark said that the key was that they make their own bread on site, and I can say that makes a big difference. It was delicious.
What's the super touristy one? Joe's or something?
Joe's and Pat's.
Yeah, Joe's and Pat's.
Geno's.
Excuse me.
Pat's.
Yes,
There it
Gino.
is.
Thank you.
I went to Ishkabibbles when I was there.
Ishkabibbles.
That's been recommended a lot.
Ishkabibbles.
John's
Fine.
as well.
I was with a local, born and raised.
Yeah.
All life.
Local Philly
really
people get so mad if you say you go to Gino's and Pat's.
Yeah.
This is what I kind of mean.
Touristy.
It's the Times Square. You know, those cheesesteaks are the
Yeah,
Times Square. Like
exactly.
overrated. Not that interesting.
On Saturday, by the way, not to skip ahead, but on Saturday, I went with my family to a brand new place called Shay's, which was recommended to me by Philly natives. Relatively new, I think 6 months old, and it killed D'Alessandro's. Killed it.
You got a cheesesteak?
Yeah, well, so here's...
No, I got the smoked salmon.
No.
I mean, you can't compare cheese.
Just let me finish. I didn't have the cheese on the steak, but I had the steak. Okay, that to me is most important.
No.
Wait, a fork and knife steak?
No.
Well
On the
done.
sandwich. And
By
here's
the way,
here's the crazy thing.
that's not the name of the restaurant. So whoever that is, D'Alessandro is getting slandered.
Oh, no. What was it called?
It's not the name of it. I don't want to say now because of your horrible review.
No, I said it was good, but I'm just saying Shay's was better.
D'Alessandro's is a place, though.
Wasn't that?
That's just not where y'all went?
It was not it.
Damn, sorry, D'Alessandro.
Shout out to D'Alessandro's,
It was
man.
something with a pizza in it,
It was
right?
Angelo's Pizzeria.
Angelo's, yeah.
Oh, Angelo's Pizzeria. What is that?
Who gets
No, Mark's a foodie, so he knew. He said it.
No, it was great.
Ishkabibbles.
It hit the spot. Like my kids say, it hit. But here's the thing. They had at the other place that I went to, Wagyu steak. I never had a Wagyu cheesesteak. You ever have that?
I feel like that's just marketing.
I feel like I'm gonna piss more people off. Like, I don't think most Wagyu is real Wagyu.
Yeah, I feel like it's just marketing. Yeah, they fake a lot of that.
What do you know? It was
It's
fantastic.
like caviar, you know?
There's American Wagyu, and then there's the real.
It was great.
Wagyu.
It's like truffle.
You
Everything's
ever have a
truffle
chicken cheese steak or whatever?
Yeah,
My
chicken
daughter
cheese.
had that. It
not.
was fantastic.
I had a friend that would do salmon cheesesteaks.
Okay, that's crazy. That's not crazy.
Salmon
Yeah.
and cheese. Okay. I mean,
He loved it. I mean, he was a pescatarian.
Yeah, why not?
Is that the word for it?
Yep.
Episcopalian?
Anyway, enough on the cheesesteaks. Then we make our way over to the beautiful Wells Fargo Center. And if no one's ever been to that area, they've got Wells Fargo Center. They've got the Philly Stadium, which is like Citizens Bank Field or something like that. And then Lincoln Financial Field. No, that's stadium. Baseball stadium. Anyway, they're all in the same complex. They're all in the same thing. Like you can literally walk from one to the other within the parking lot. And so we go there for SmackDown. And if I'm being honest, like the go home SmackDown heading into WrestleMania is light on action, and it's more just kind of, finally the last stop, setting the table for the big weekend, the two shows. Saturday, Sunday, WrestleMania. The only reason I really wanted to go to make the drive was because my good friend Paul Heyman, who is one of the greatest human beings that I've ever met, was finally getting inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And it was fitting because, of course, he made a name for himself in Philadelphia, leading the charge as the face and the owner of Extreme Championship Wrestling. And so SmackDown 8 to 10, and then they have to, rejigger the whole thing and take the ropes down and make it all nice for the Hall of Fame. And I was like, man, we're staring at a potential like 2 more hours of this. And both Rick and I are driving home. He's not staying for the weekend. My daughter has a soccer game Saturday morning. I don't want to miss that. And so I'm getting nervous. And then they announce, somewhat shocking, I still can't believe they did this. They announce that Paul Heyman was kicking off the Hall of Fame. Oh, my God. What a pop for that. And true to form, and as expected, a fantastic speech. If you missed it, go on YouTube or Peacock and watch it. It was vintage Paul Heyman. And I have so much love for Paul for so many reasons. Longtime fans of this program will remember when he came in studio in 2010 with the massive jug of coffee, talking about the state of wrestling in his career, and he was on the outside looking in at that time, and he's been so kind to us over the years. And I can proudly say that I consider him a friend, a confidant, if you will, someone that I've asked his opinion on matters pertaining to my career, etc. He was kind enough to invite me to his daughter's bat mitzvah and son's bar mitzvah, attended the bat mitzvah, which was a very special and incredible experience. And it was an honor to be invited, and it was very touching. That was back in 2015. It's very cool to see his kids sitting ringside next to CM Punk, who's a very good friend of his. And it was just amazing. And among the many things that he said, which this ended up being a theme of the weekend, which really stood out to me, he really showered Paul Levesque, a.k.a. Triple H, with praise and talked about how this was a new era and that he's a Paul Levesque guy, which is, leaning into what people say about him, Paul Heyman guy. I consider myself a Paul Heyman guy. I would do anything for that guy. And I thought it was very interesting that he was so willing and so often praising Paul and others. That's very much Paul Heyman, but the Paul Levesque stuff in particular, because he is now, in many respects, the face of WWE. So that was a great experience, and I was so happy that Rick and I got to go see that. I talked about this last year, but when I was backstage in Montreal in February of last year, Heyman really went out of his way to make me feel comfortable and just allowed me to shadow him the whole time. And it was, I felt like I was witnessing Picasso at work. It was one of the coolest experiences of my life. And he didn't have to do that. He could have kept me in the corner, but he really looked out for me. And so I will always be a Paul Heyman guy and love that guy and back that guy. And so I had to be there, and I would have done anything to be there, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And so it was very, very cool to experience that, and so pleased that I was able to. We both drove home, struggled a little bit on the drive, but it was all good. Went to the soccer game Saturday, and then packed up the whole family and went back to Philadelphia on Saturday for WrestleMania. Now, that's when we had the cheesesteak. We at Shea's, way better in my opinion, and we got all ready. Now, I went to WrestleMania both nights with my sons, Oliver and Walter. They had never been to WrestleMania. This is now my 5th WrestleMania. The first one that I went to was WrestleMania 18, back when it was Hogan versus Rock at the Rogers Center / Skydome in Toronto in 2002. I was sitting 5 rows from the top. This time around, we're sitting 5 rows from the ring. And so I had to explain to them, this isn't normal. This is not how you should, start your experience at WrestleMania. It's like you're supposed to work your way down. But I'm so pleased that I get to give them experiences like this and share experiences like this with them. And in particular, because these experiences as a kid meant so much to me. Like, to me, WrestleMania, thinking about it, watching. I remember when my mom was, when I was young and my mom was in the hospital, and she had just given birth to my sister, and I'm watching it on the hospital TV. It was WrestleMania 7 coming up. And I remember renting WrestleMania 1 and doing my own WrestleManias with the toys. And so, like, to me, that's the Super Bowl, right? That's the NBA Finals. That's the Masters. That's the granddaddy of them all, the showcase of the immortals. And so to be there amongst 72,000 fans who just all love professional wrestling was a really cool experience. It was freaking cold, though. It was really cold. I've never watched wrestling in a climate like that. And it's cold when you're, if it's 40 Celsius is like around, I don't know, 40 Fahrenheit is around like 8, 9 Celsius. And you're walking around, not so bad. But you're sitting and it's windy. And I mostly felt sorry for the wrestlers because there were some heaters at, above the ring. But to be honest, like it was freaking cold. And I don't know how much, help those heaters were providing. And so Saturday was cold. And honestly, I don't know why they choose to do WrestleMania in the Northeast in early April in an open air stadium. If it's going to be in the Northeast and it's going to be in an open air stadium, I would suggest doing it later in the month. It just so happens that today, tomorrow, and Wednesday are going to be a lot warmer. So, there's that, but there's also the potential for rain. Last Wednesday, there was essentially like a monsoon here. What would have happened if there was a crazy rainstorm? That would have been a disaster. And so I don't even know how they're like, I would be so anxious. For years, you're building up to this and you're just waiting for the forecast for one particular, 2-day stretch. So there's that. And there's also like, this is a pretty busy weekend in sports with the men's Final Four on Saturday night and the women's Final Four, which is bigger than the men's Final Four this year. If you do it a couple of weeks down the line, there's a little less competition. Obviously, there's the NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs, but I wonder if they're going to push it down the line in the future, or if they go back to the Northeast, do it in a enclosed stadium like in Minnesota or Indianapolis, etc. So Saturday was a little bit cold, but overall, I thought fun. I saw some people saying that the crowd was dead, and maybe they were dead because it was cold, because it was very cold, and it only got colder. Very cool to see The Rock in person. Very cool to see all of that. And what I liked so much about it was Saturday was tied to Sunday. It wasn't just two separate main events. The result of Saturday affected Sunday's main event. If Cody and Seth lost, then Bloodline rules Sunday, and that's what happened. Sunday was a lot warmer, which was nice. In the morning, I got to take my kids to WWE World, and thank you to everyone who said hello and was very kind about the interviews, about the shows, about all that stuff. It was very cool to meet some people who actually like pro wrestling and aren't so hoity-toity about it. So that was fun. We walked around. We went to the Liberty Bell, but apparently you have to like wait in line and do a whole. I thought the Liberty Bell was just out and about, but apparently it's like in an enclosed house. I don't know. Have you guys ever seen the Liberty Bell in person?
Yes, I've been.
You waited in that whole line?
It wasn't that long when I went.
It was
I'll be
pretty damn
honest.
big.
But this is now several years ago.
I guess, it's a cool thing, but we didn't.
So you didn't
wait.
see it.
No, we didn't. We took a freaking Uber to see it, and
Seen one bell.
I was the only one that wanted
Went
to
to
see
Philly,
it. No one cared.
knockoff cheesesteak, didn't see
Cheesesteak.
the bell.
Didn't see the bell.
Yeah, we really didn't have
There's still
those.
time.
Yeah, no, could go back. It's only like an hour
Still
and a half.
there.
Yeah.
Still there.
Yeah.
They still have it.
Still cracked.
point.
Haven't
That's a
fixed
good
it,
point.
which is weird. In any event, then we get to WrestleMania 2, night 2. And this was very cool because I didn't realize that we had like VIP access. Shout out, no big deal, NBD, Barry H. Thank you, Uncle Nick. I didn't realize that we had this on night 1. Night 2, we have it, and now we're amidst all the luminaries, all the execs, all the VIPs. Saw Pat McAfee's boys, met his lovely wife, which was great. Saw some other people, saw the great Kyle Brandt, saw one of my favorite media reporters, Bobby Burak, saw who else? Will Kane, former ESPN host, and now with Fox News. And I'm probably forgetting a ton of people, but that was very cool. Plus food, drink, all that stuff. And it was just a lot more enjoyable on night 2 because of the weather and all that. But what really jumped out at me at the start of night 2, who shows up? Stephanie McMahon. And she, like Paul Heyman on Friday, talks about the Paul Levesque era. And at that point, first of all, we hadn't seen Stephanie in quite some time. obviously the daughter of Vince McMahon, but the wife of Paul Levesque. And it just felt, from being in the back with all the executive VIP celebrity media types, to what Heyman said on Friday, to The Rock on Saturday, to what Stephanie said on Sunday at the top of the show, to what happened at the end of the show, to the Endeavor people being around. I saw some UFC executives around. This felt like a real transformative moment and weekend for WWE, where WWE is very obviously, in my opinion, moving on from the Vince McMahon era, moving on from the old sports entertainment era. How many times did we hear pro wrestling, pro wrestling, pro wrestling, pro wrestling? There were a lot of subtle, or maybe not so subtle, things said, actions that happened where it seemed very clear that WWE was taking a massive step into the mainstream, into a new era, with Endeavor, with the sponsors, with the people in attendance, with the people who returned, with the things that were said, with Paul Levesque being mentioned, with Nick Khan being shown on TV at the end, with Cody Rhodes winning, with The Rock, with the old school. Like, it just seemed like a massive difference from last year. And last year, the event happened right before the sale, and obviously a lot has happened since, and a lot needs to be resolved, but it seemed like a very conscious decision to move from the old era into this new era. And I would say for most people, it seems like a very, very welcome change. The pro wrestling is back. Pro wrestling is back. Pro wrestling is back. Sports entertainment is dead. All that stuff. No one wanted that. And look at the way that main event was booked. The card was great. Go back and watch it if you want. But that main event and the finish to that main event might have been, and please indulge me here for a second, it was a pretty damn big weekend. There's a lot of MMA to come. But the main event on Sunday might have been the greatest finish to any WrestleMania, and there have been now 40, or any card ever in wrestling history, because of what that story meant. The Cody Rhodes finish the story angle, if you will. We had him in studio last week. We had him in studio last year to talk about this. We had never been so invested in something quite like this that felt so real, because it was real. It was about his dad never getting that opportunity to become WWF/WWE champion, and him not realizing his potential as his dad's son, and him not being able to give that belt to his dad when he was alive. Unfortunately, Dusty Rhodes no longer with us. His mom, obviously Cody's mom, in the front row. And so it felt real, even though I know it's scripted. It felt so freaking real. It was pulling at our heartstrings, because last year we were in Los Angeles and we all thought, I would have bet my life that he would have won. It seemed right there, and they didn't do it. And boy, am I glad that they didn't do it, because we got that moment yesterday, and it feels like it's so much better suited for today, for this era. And so the deck is stacked against him, which was perfect. The bloodline attacks, Solo attacks. Jay comes in, Jimmy comes in, The Rock comes in, John Cena comes in, Seth Rollins as the Shield comes in, and what a great story that was. And then The Undertaker comes in, and truth be told, we decided to head out a little bit early to beat the rush, because we still had an hour and 45-minute drive to come home. And I have my phone on, and the texts are popping up, and I'm seeing GC's reaction. Oh my God, GGGG, or exclamation, exclamation. This guy who you could say, like, not the biggest pro wrestling fan, and certainly you have an appreciation and I think a respect for it. But 3 years ago, like, it was non-existent in your life. You popping hard for Cena and Taker, but you're 30 seconds ahead of me. So I'm like, who's going to come out now? I thought Austin would come out, but obviously that didn't happen, but all good. And seeing your reaction to those texts as I'm watching with my kids on the drive home to beat the traffic, which I didn't really mind because I got to hear all the commentary and we got to experience it in our little car together, was pretty freaking magical. It was great. Cody wins. It's the right move. Roman Reigns is one of the greatest of all time, and what a run that was for 4 years, and he should be so proud, and Paul should be so proud, and I can't wait to see where they go from here, and there's so much more to do. But Cody winning last night was the perfect call, and it was the right call. He brings out, or actually all the wrestlers come out to celebrate with him, which was super cool. I see him with Nick, you see him with Triple H, you see him with Bruce Pritchard, all that stuff. You see him with his wife. You see him who he hinted on Wednesday she would make an appearance with his mom. And then we hear about that story afterwards that he was given a gold Rolex by the brass, and it's the same Rolex that his dad pawned off so that he could, in the eulogy for his dad, he posted this. He said, whoops. My beautiful, I can't see this. I have a horrible, why is it making that annoying noise? My beautiful sister will tell you about angel money and that beautiful gold Rolex. He, his father, Dusty, told me if I ever won the world title, that I could have it. Just the other night, I inquired about that watch. This is his eulogy several years ago, I think 2015. I come to find out that he had sold it so that I could drive to Los Angeles to chase a dream. They gave him the gold Rolex yesterday. Somehow they tracked it down and they gave it to him yesterday. I mean, how could you not love this? How could you not appreciate this? Again, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but that's a beautiful story and they freaking nailed it. And it's so much fun. It's so much fun to be a fan. It's so much fun to enjoy pro wrestling. And I had a few people tell me, oh man, they come up to me and they start talking shit about AEW. And every single fan that I said this to, or that said this to me, I said to them, I don't hate AEW. I love pro wrestling. I don't care if it's Japanese pro wrestling. I don't care if it's Ring of Honor. I don't care if it's TNA, et cetera, et cetera. And I tell them, if you have listened to any of my shows over the past 10 years, 15 years, you would know that I always try to champion the cause for the other leagues, right? Because it's great for the performers, for the fighters, for the wrestlers, for the talent, for there to be competition. It's good for my business. It's good for their business. It's always better for everyone. And I will say this, and I hope they hear it and chill out just a little bit. And if not, it's all good. Last night doesn't happen. And last night isn't the success that it was, and the moment that it was, and the moment that will be remembered from now until eternity and one of the greatest WrestleMania moments of all time. It does not happen if not for AEW and Tony Khan. It doesn't exist. And so I hope they take great pride in that. And I hope that people recognize that that part of the story is integral to this part of the story. And if that part of the story doesn't exist, this part of the story doesn't get finished. It is so important to recognize that, because when Cody Rhodes leaves, he could just be floating in the wind. He could just be some indie guy. He could be some guy fighting over in Japan or competing in Japan. He could be some guy just kind of bouncing around. If not for him leaving and meeting Tony Khan and them with the rest of the guys starting AEW, he does not become the talent and superstar that he becomes, and he doesn't become sought after by WWE to come back and do all of this and have this moment yesterday. It doesn't happen, because when he left, he wasn't this guy. He was nowhere near being this guy. He had to leave to reinvent himself, to build up his confidence in order to get to this point, and he only does that in large part due to what was built with AEW. That's why it's important that the AEWs of the world exist, and it's a testament to their presence in this business. And so I hope they recognize that and appreciate that and are proud of that. But in the end, he is not there anymore, and that's just business, and that's life, and he got to have that moment, and what a freaking moment it was. And it was just, in my opinion, the greatest moment, the greatest finish, the greatest ending to a WrestleMania ever. And that's saying a lot, because there have been some great ones, but they gave us what we wanted, and it was just a reminder of how much fun all of this could be. And to me, the cherry on top, and it's something I will never forget, and I'm so grateful and thankful for. It's like my experience with the Knicks a couple of weekends ago, taking my kids to a Knicks game. It's fun to be a fan. It's fun to experience things. It's fun to go through life liking things and having that escape and rooting for things and looking forward to things. That is fun. And it's fun when you're a kid, and it's fun when you're a teenager or a 20-year-old or 30-year-old. But it pales in comparison to going through those things and experiencing those things with your kids as a dad. And as a lifelong fan, getting my kids into it, watching it with them, seeing them pop for certain things, Speed showing up, Logan Paul showing up, and doing his thing, R-Truth doing his thing, Sammy winning, etc. And then what happened in the main, and then this morning listening to them while they were taking, they're getting ready for school, taking a shower, debating the finish, and Taker showing up, and my middle son Walter being upset because he wanted Roman to win because he likes Roman, and just hearing them debate the end of WrestleMania. God, I was more proud about that than them bringing home a good report card. Don't tell them I said that. But just incredible. And this is what everyone talks about. And your thing could be something different. Your thing could be something completely different. But any father out there, any parent out there who experiences something like this, your kids becoming fans of something that you grew up enjoying and being a fan of, there is nothing like it. And so I hope you understand when I show this enthusiasm and this fandom for this type of stuff, I hope you understand where it's coming from. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. There were 140 or so thousand people who enjoyed this weekend, and that's great. And it's okay if it's not your cup of tea, but just please understand that this is fun, that you experience it with family, you experience it with kids, and memories like the ones that we created this past weekend are ones that I'll never forget. It was really freaking awesome. And so let me ask the guys before we get to our first guest of the day. Rick, you were there with me on Friday. I'm assuming you watched.
All-timer from Paul Heyman.
It was amazing.
Friday. I mean, just nailed every single note. Is he the greatest on the mic in wrestling ever?
He's up there, man. There's Bobby Heenan, who was incredible, but he's like legit Mount Rushmore, top 4, top 5, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, every time he grabs a microphone, it's just magical.
We were eating out of the palm of his hand. It was truly magic.
Us and everybody else. But yes, I did watch. I did not see much of Saturday. I did see most of Sunday.
Incredible, right?
Really enjoyed. Is it okay if I say I didn't enjoy the breaking of kayfabe at the end?
What is this?
Is it okay if I say that?
What is it?
Yeah, what did happen?
What don't you like?
I kind of zoned out when everyone was dapping each other up.
I want to see them maintain a little bit of the suspension of disbelief. Like,
what did they do?
What bothered you?
I'm not saying bothered, but like I would have preferred if there was more looking toward the future than like, the celebration of the business part of it. Just personal preference.
But which part in particular? Be specific.
Like we're bringing out Bruce Pritchard and Triple H and all.
So you would have preferred that goes off air, that happens off air? Because I didn't really think there was any kayfabe broken. You know why? He doesn't have beef with Triple H anymore. He's not a character. Neither is Bruce Pritchard. So he was just saying, "Hey, I won. Let me bring out the guys who brought me back." That's not kayfabe.
Yeah, but that's business. They brought me back to WWE.
Bro,
and now
at the top of the show, Stephanie McMahon comes out and says, "This is the Paul Levesque era." She called him by his kayfabe name or his real name.
If Roman Reigns wins, is he hugging Triple H in the ring after? And Bruce Pritchard?
It's possible.
Nah,
it doesn't fit the story though. Cody,
say, is this because it's a quote unquote new era?
100%. This is all a new era,
and that's fine. And again, I'm not like when you say like I'm not like disturbed by it. Like it was like, but I would have preferred a little more to stay in the world. How about that?
Nah, that's the big critique.
I'm not critiquing. I'm telling you,
it's not a common thing
to stay in the world.
Sure, that's fair. But I actually don't really think that it was that much of a departure because
no, come on, that's never happened before.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that happened this weekend has never happened before. They said, by the way, not before, but they actually said the word pro wrestling, not sports entertainment.
Multiple times over the weekend.
Big deal.
It's very clear there's a new era, which I'm fine with. I'm okay with that. And I especially agree in like the context of like Paul Heyman was leaning pretty heavily into that.
Oh, yeah.
But that's outside, like he's doing something that exists outside of the storyline. Then once it's the storyline, I'd rather stay locked in. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it wasn't good. I'm not saying that anybody else shouldn't have enjoyed it. I would have preferred a different.
Yeah, I mean that whatever. That's what.
This is nitpicking.
This? I mean, this
I'm not nitpicking.
All that matters is when the bell tolls and then everything goes dark and then Undertaker shows up behind the Rock.
I love that.
I mean, you talk about I've stated I'm not really a wrestling guy, but like I was hyped up in my living room, sitting by myself when the Undertaker showed up. I mean, that was
What would
that
you
was
have popped
amazing.
harder for, that or if the glass would have shattered and Stone Cold would have come out? Because it was down to those two in that
I
moment.
mean, I probably would have gone pretty crazy for Stone Cold showing up too, because like you don't have to be like a diehard wrestling fan to recognize these guys. They're like legends of entertainment. I mean, I love the bell ringing and then everything going dark,
Yeah.
and then the Undertaker's just there, and the fact that he was behind The Rock, who's like he's an old school guy too, and then he choke slams him, then it goes black again, then they're gone. I mean, that was amazing.
Not only that, we get a recreation of the AJ Styles meme. Like now we get a new Undertaker.
Oh yeah, with him.
looming.
Undertaker,
With him behind The
Undertaker
Rock.
behind the Rock and like the face and everything. Because like one thing that I thought about is that like people always say like, oh, you know it's scripted, and it's just like going into it, I was like, Cody's gonna win. But the thing is, I was just like, how is he gonna win though? Like they keep promising how this is the biggest WrestleMania ever. The thing that I enjoyed was like seeing how they were going to make it happen. Plus, John Cena showing up was pretty crazy too. And then you get the face off with him and The Rock. Yeah, I thought it was fun. I had a ton of fun watching it.
I thought last year that it was obvious that he was going to win. He didn't, so I was not.
Yeah. See, I mean,
What
you
it-
can't count the chickens till they hatch.
What are the other contenders for best ever? Obviously, like the Daniel Bryan, right? And
Daniel Bryan.
um,
Becky winning was it was a little bit sloppy at the end though.
Isn't like Undertaker versus Michaels one that everybody talks about as like one of the
Yeah.
greatest from the 2000 the mid 2000s?
Hogan and Andre, Ultimate Warrior beating Hogan, Brett and Shawn. I mean, there's great moments, but like one that tied this story that has been going on for so long with the legends and the emotion. Again, a lot of it is written and a lot of it is scripted, so to speak. But this was a real story, like about his dad
Yeah.
and about his legacy and about his own journey and his mom. Like all that is real. All that is real.
I thought he said it so beautifully in the press conference, in the post match press conference. He said essentially like a lot of people will see it as a father-son story, which everybody can latch onto and identify with, but it's really a story about like I wasn't good enough and then I became good enough, and that's like a story even more people can kind of see themselves in, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like the father part is part of it,
Yeah.
but like it was more like they thought I wasn't the man, and then I became the man. That's pretty
So freaking
badass.
great.
I actually watched the press conference and then I went down a rabbit hole of the Stardust days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's,
look,
I mean,
you look at that guy and you say, how could that guy end up here,
Dude.
right?
dude, I mean, you're talking about just like,
Mid card.
I was going to say just felt like a prop for
Yeah.
the WWE.
Yeah.
Like no star power at all, just like a character and nothing more. And it's crazy that was only like 8 years ago or whatever.
What a time, guys. I could do a whole 4-hour show on this past weekend, but alas, we do have other things to discuss as well, and it could come up throughout the program. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you didn't enjoy it, sucks for you because you missed out. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel, so please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.